Chapter 18, Development Throughout Life. The periods of development in the human life can be divided into the prenatal and postnatal periods. The prenatal period is the period of development before birth, whereas the postnatal period is the period of development after birth. The prenatal period can further be divided into subgroups of pre-embryonic period, which is from fertilization through the second week, the embryonic period from week 3 through week 8, and the fetal period from week 9 until birth. These images show various stages of the prenatal period. The zygote is the fertilized egg. The blastocyst is implanting into the wall of the uterus. Both of these are in the pre-embryonic period. An embryo about 7 weeks old would be in the embryonic period. The fetus about 5 months of age would be in the fetal period. Major events of the pre-embryonic period include fertilization, cleavage, formation and implantation of the blastocyst in the uterine wall, and the beginning of formation of the extra-embryonic membranes and the placenta. So this shows, beginning with fertilization, is step 1 is that an ovary releases an egg, so the secondary oocyte is released from the ovary and swept into the uterus. Within the uterus, fertilization, wherein a single sperm will penetrate the secondary oocyte. Eventually, the sperm and the egg nuclei will fuse, resulting in a fertilized egg termed a zygote. Cleavage occurs. The zygote soon undergoes rapid mitotic cell divisions as it moves along the oviduct towards the uterus, becoming a pre-embryo that consists of 2 cells. This will become 4 cells, doubling, 8 cells, and so on. Eventually, it's termed a morula by day 4, that the successive divisions produce the morula, which is a solid ball of cells entering the uterus. By day 6, the pre-embryo becomes a blastocyst, which is a hollow ball of cells with a fluid-filled cavity. The blastocyst has freed itself from the layer of the zona pellucida, thus it can increase in size. Implantation occurs in the uterus. The blastocyst attaches to the uterine lining, the endometrium specifically, and begins to digest its way inward. The cells of the inner cell mass begin to form the primary germlators. Fertilization takes approximately 24 hours. During sexual intercourse, approximately 200 to 600 million sperm are deposited in the vagina and on the cervix, which is the neck of the uterus that extends into the vagina. And less than 1%, or approximately 200, ever reach the oviduct. The sperm move via the flagella as well as the prostaglandins, the lipid or the molecules released by plasma membranes of many cells causing contractions that aid in the sperm's movement. Fertilization occurs in the oviduct and implantation in the endometrium of the uterus. Enzymes from the sperm's acrosome create the pathway through the layers surrounding the secondary oocyte of the corona rhodotati and the zona pellucida. The sperm will enter the cytoplasm of the secondary oocyte released from the ovary. The zona pellucida will harden, which prevents entry of additional sperm. The secondary oocyte, once the sperm enters, will complete its second meiotic division and is considered an ovum at that time. The nucleus of the egg or ovum and the nucleus of the sperm fuse. to restore that diploid state of 23 chromosomes from the egg plus the 23 chromosomes from the sperm. Zygote is the term used to describe a fertilized ovum. So after a sperm enters the egg, it's considered a zygote. So the zygote would contain the genetic information both from the mother and the father. So it would contain the 23 chromosomes from the mother and the 23 chromosomes from the father. So this shows the steps of sperm penetration, is that secretions from the female reproductive tract alter the surface of the plasma membrane of the sperm. So once the sperm contacts the corona rhodata of the secondary oocyte, the enzymes contained within the acrosome are released. These enzymes will disrupt the cellular attachments, allowing passage of the sperm through the corona rhodata and then the zona pellucida. The sperm will contact the plasma membrane of the secondary oocyte, and their plasma membranes will fuse. The sperm enters the cytoplasm of the secondary oocyte. Granules near the plasma membrane of the secondary oocyte release their enzymes, causing the overlying zona pellucida to harden, prevents entry of additional sperm, and the nucleus of the sperm and the nucleus of the egg fuse, and fertilization is completed. Sequence of events during pre-embryonic development include cleavage, morula, blastocyst, and implantation. Cleavage occurs about 1 day after fertilization, and during cleavage, the single cell zygote becomes a pre-embryo, first consisting of 2 cells, then 4 cells, then 8 cells, then 16 cells, and so on. Cell divisions do not result in overall size increase. Instead, the cells within the ball become progressively smaller with each of the cell divisions. Cleavage is just a rapid series of mitotic cell divisions. It begins as a zygote, moves down the oviduct toward the uterus, and by day 4, the pre-embryo is a solid ball of 12 or more cells called a morula. The morula enters the uterus approximately 5 days after fertilization. Twins, if the ball of cells splits, then 2 pre-embryos are formed. Identical twins are also termed monozygotic twins. This occurs when one egg released and fertilized by one sperm, wherein the pre-embryo later splits into 2. Conjoined twins form if the splitting is incomplete. If 2 secondary oocytes are released from the ovaries and fertilized by different sperm, then 2 pre-embryos may develop. These are termed fraternal twins or dizygotic twins. Fraternal twins may or may not be of the same gender, they may not be the same sex, and they are no more genetically similar than siblings who aren't twins. So this shows the images in A are identical twins that result when a single fertilized egg later splits into 2 very, very early in development. In B, this is where that split was incomplete and results in conjoined twins. And fraternal twins is when 2 secondary oocytes were released and fertilized by 2 separate sperm, so thus they are no more identical than other siblings. Blastocyst is formed by day 6. This is a hollow ball of cells with the inner fluid filled cavity. Contains 2 parts. The inner cell mass and the trophoblast. The inner cell mass becomes the embryo proper and some of the embryonic membranes. The trophoblast gives rise to the extra embryonic membrane called the chorion, which is the embryo's contribution to the placenta. The placenta is the organ that will serve to deliver oxygen and nutrients to the embryo, as well as carry away carbon dioxide of cellular respiration, as well as other waste. Before the blastocyst becomes implanted in the uterine wall and the placenta develops, the blastocyst floats freely in the uterus. It increases in overall size of the blastocyst, become possible when it frees itself from the degenerating zona pellucida. Implantation begins about 6 days after fertilization, wherein the blastocyst becomes embedded in the endometrium of the uterus. It normally occurs high up on the back wall of the uterus, and an ectopic pregnancy results if the blastocyst implants outside the uterus, typically in an oviduct. Approximately, it's estimated that 1/3 to 1/2 of the zygotes fail to implant properly. Chromosomal abnormalities and insufficient hormone production are the reasons given for this failure rate. So this shows that fertilization occurring in the oviduct after the secondary oocyte is released from the ovary. It travels into the oviduct wherein the sperm had traveled, fertilization occurs, and then the uterus, the endometrium of the uterus is where the blastocyst, and this will show the blastocyst implanting in the endometrium within the uterus and releasing enzymes, which is basically burrowing into the mother's endometrium to implant. Human chorionic gonadotropin, or called HCG, this is the hormone produced by the blastocyst during implantation. It's later produced by the placenta once it's formed. HCG, or human chorionic gonadotropin, maintains the corpus luteum and stimulates it to continue producing progesterone. Without progesterone, the endometrium would be shed, as would be during menstrual flow. It's screened for in pregnancy tests. The HCG hormone is what is being detected. The blastocyst, or the human chorionic gonadotropin of the blastocyst, would enter the mother's bloodstream and be excreted in the urine. Thus, this is checked for in the pregnancy test. Infertility is the term given to an individual's inability to become pregnant in a female or to cause a pregnancy in a male. A couple is considered infertile if conception does not occur after 1 year of unprotected sexual intercourse. And implantation can be a major hurdle in this terminology of infertility. There's assisted reproductive techniques for hormones, artificial insemination, in vitro, zygote intrafallopian transfer. Extryonic membranes include the amnion, the yolk sac, the allantois, and the chorion. Toward the end of the pre-embryonic period, these four membranes begin to form around the pre-embryo and continue formation into the embryonic period. These extra embryonic membranes function to nourish the embryo and fetus, all formed from the inner cell mass. So this shows the different layers of the membranes, the amnion, which of course is the amniotic sac containing the amniotic fluid from which the fetus will develop, the fetal portion of the placenta, the chorion layer, the maternal portion, the placenta of the endometrium, the yolk sac, the allantus, the chorionic villi, which is from that chorion layer where it's fingered its way in and implanted in the mother's uterine wall, the umbilical cord, and the chorion. The amnion encloses the embryo in a cavity filled with the amniotic fluid, and the fluid serves as a protective cushion. The yolk sac is the site of early blood cell formation. These contain the primordial germ cells that will migrate to the gonads, either to the testes or to the ovaries. These primordial germ cells will become either the sperm or the oocytes. The allantus is a small membrane whose blood vessels become part of the umbilical cord. This, of course, is the connection between the embryo and the placenta. The chorion is the outermost layer and becomes the embryo's contribution to the placenta. The functions of the placenta include that it allows oxygen and nutrients to fuse from the maternal blood into the embryonic blood. The placenta also allows waste such as carbon dioxide and urea to diffuse from the embryonic blood into the maternal blood. The placenta also produces hormones essential for continued pregnancy, such as human chorionic gonadotropin, estrogen, and progesterone. Research has shown that high levels of HCG, or human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, is believed to be responsible for morning sickness. The placenta forms from the chorion of the embryo and the portion of the mother's endometrium where the implantation occurred. So the placenta is shared between the embryo and the mother. The placenta is fully developed by the 3rd month of pregnancy. It forms from the chorion of the embryo and the endometrium of the mother where the embryo implanted. The chorionic villi are the finger-like processes of the chorion. These provide the exchange services for nutrients, oxygen, and waste. It anchors the embryonic portion of the placenta to the maternal tissue. This shows the exchange that the placenta provides, wherein oxygen and nutrients diffuse from pools of maternal blood into the capillaries within the chorionic villi, carried to the fetus via blood vessels in the umbilical cord. Fetal waste move in the opposite direction back to the maternal blood. Under normal conditions, there is no mixing of maternal and fetal blood. All exchanges occur across the capillary walls. In addition to beneficial nutrients and oxygen exchange, harmful products can also be transferred from the mother to the fetus, such as drugs, alcohol, caffeine, toxins, and cigarette smoke, as well as HIV. Placenta previa is a condition in which the placenta forms in the lower part of the uterus and covers the cervix. Delivery by cesarean section will be necessary. Placenta previa may cause premature birth